It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. I am excited to talk with my guest today. Joining me is Alzay Calhoun, founder and CEO of Coveted Consultant, based in Atlanta. Alzay, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well today. Thank you for having me.
And I have to bring this up. You're doing well because you just got married like a couple days ago.
That is true. As of this podcast, I am a newlywed, and I'm excited about all that will bring. So bring it on, life. Bring it on.
So this is a new wedding tradition. We're going to start this here. Is that instead of going on your honeymoon or on your honeymoon, is you appear on my podcast. So anybody out there who's sales expert thinking about getting married, just build it into your post-wedding plan that somewhere in that first week after you get married, you got to schedule a time to come on the podcast and talk. Because, what's a honeymoon? What's a marriage without a little accelerate in your life, right?
Absolutely. Exactly right.
Okay, well, very good. So congratulations, as we said before. Very, very honored to have you here. So take a minute, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
So again, my name is Alzay Calhoun. My company's name is Coveted Consultant. And what I believe is that content is now an imperative if you are going to attract clients. And many of my clients are consulting firms or advisory firms in some way, in some space. And so for those of us who are advisory firms, consulting firms, what we sell is invisible. We already know. You can't see it, you can't touch it. It's a service. You can't put your hands on it. And so good news for us is that in 2016, content now makes our intangible services tangible. If we do a good job, an aggressive job of creating content, it's easier for the clients to appreciate what they're about to step into. And so that's my passion place as a business, is to help consulting firms, advisors, et cetera, make better use of content so they can paint a better picture for their end client on how they do business. And that way, it's a much easier engagement on both sides, for you as the practitioner and for your clients as those receiving services.
Okay. Yeah, I like that because, it really parallels with what I talk about in my books, actually. I think in my first book I brought this up is that really the job of a salesperson is to, if you want to differentiate yourself from your competitors, you have to make your intangibles tangible. Mm-hmm. And certainly content's one way to do that. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about other ways you can sell that do that as well. But I think that is really the critical thing we're talking about here is that, how do you take the sort of spectrum of choices that potential clients have, and many of the criteria they're looking at are they sort of considered intangibles. How do you make them in tangible form? And that's very important. So, and you said you work primarily sort of with advisory firms, solopreneurs. I imagine a lot of solopreneurs, people that probably marketing and sales probably doesn't come easy to.
Right. So thank you for asking that. Right. So a lot of us out here are technicians. And so a lot of my clients kind of fit this description. They worked in corporate America or worked a job for a certain number of years, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 years. So they're very technically experienced, well-versed, deep knowledge, and frankly proud about what they've done in their career to that point. And then on one day, at some point, they decide to step out and create a consulting firm based around the work they used to do. And what they learned, and unfortunately kind of trial by fire, is that they learned that the deep technical expertise that they've built doesn't sell very well. In other words, it's hard to appropriately communicate and translate what you've been doing for so long to prospective clients. And they need help with that. And so again, we kind of use content as that gap fill. If you commit to content and commit to it the right way, it can increase the level of appreciation that your clients have for this robust skill set that you've built.
Which really, what we're talking about there is really the value you can deliver.
Right. Yes. Exactly right. Yes.
Because it's on one level, it's nice to have an appreciation for your skill set, but what you really want them to appreciate is how you apply that skill set to bring value to them for the investment they're going to make in you. So it's really what I takeaway from what you're talking about and having looked through your materials and so on is that it's really about establishing authority. I mean, using content to establish authority or a sphere of expertise, let's say, in the space that you're serving. And I think this applies solopreneurs, it applies to individual sales reps working for companies as well, is you need to be able to establish this authority.
I do. I agree with that. And let's play with that word authority for a minute, because that's a word that's been given to us by by the marketing gurus of our time. And authority when we use the word authority, our brains go to generals in suits, police officers in uniform. It goes to these very formal structures of leadership, authority, command, direction. And so then if we think that content is supposed to help us get to that place, we start creating content from that attitude. I am the authority. I am the unchallenged expert. I am the know all be all kind of positioning. And that's hard to maintain. Period. I mean, if there are folks who are listening right now who know what I'm talking about, but it's hard to maintain that kind of perfect, polished, know-it-all, you should look up to me kind of positioning.
So what word do you use instead?
Yeah. So I think the language I use with my clients when we think about creating content is to maintain the problem solution orientation. Now, I know for you, Andy, you do that every day. I mean, that's you live and breathe that kind of attitude. It's amazing how we forget about that when it's time to actually write a piece of material. So again, problem solution. And so if you recognize the fact that your client has a problem, and I mean a problem that they're aware of, so not one that you pushed onto them, not one you projected to them. Very simply, if your client is hungry and they know they're hungry, then the content you create for them should speak to their hunger, not to what you want to sell them, but instead their desire to no longer be hungry. Now, again, this is kind of like marketing 101, but it's amazing how many times we don't do this. We skip this part. So,
well, and let's take, slow down for a second and deconstruct that, because I think that's a great point for people. Is I mean, I might have a different word for hunger, but I love the use of that, because too often people talk about clients and businesses when they're looking at buying a service or buying a product or something, is they're trying to solve a pain. And to me, the hunger isn't a pain. To me, the hunger is more aspirational. And to me, that is more why companies buy, right? Is they want to achieve something. That is the hunger to be something other than what they are.
Okay, let's go, Andy. So let's go a little deeper, right? So in this conversation about pain, about hunger, about problem, we're really talking about both things at the same time. We're talking about the uncomfortable place the client knows they're in and the preferred place they would rather be. And both of those are important at the same time. And Andy, as you well know, different clients at different points in time resonate differently to both sides. So depending on exactly what's going on, they resonate more with the preferred solution or preferred situation than they do with the pain. So to speak in kind of as practical language as I can, if we're talking tax time, we all know when in the US, we all know what tax time is. That's April 15th. And you know that you've got to turn in your taxes. And if you know you owe taxes, you've got some personal friction around that, because you may not know what that number is. It could be 3 figures, it could be 4 figures, it could be 5 figures, depending on your exact situation, or more, depending on your situation. So you have anxiety about that. And so as April gets closer, your pain, your discomfort around taxes increases. However, what would you prefer? You'd prefer for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years to never have to deal with the April friction. You'd prefer to always be prepared and to almost feel confident when April shows up, because you know you don't have this inappropriate tax burden, hovering over your heads. So So practically, that's a very simple example. Our job as marketing professionals, our job as business owners who want to offer solutions, is to speak to both at the same time. And if you haven't been trained that way, if your sales education, your marketing education didn't train you to do both at the same time, then you won't do this. Which your only interest in picking up the phone or engaging with the client will be to sell them what you have to offer them. And as you know, Andy, that's a much different conversation than acknowledging the discomfort that client is in.
All right. So you talk about a way to create resonance, respect, power, and profitability with pillar content. Pillar as in a pillar that you supports the foundation of a house, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what is pillar content?
Yeah. So I didn't make the term up, but it's something that has as a word resonates with me because of the word pillar. So it uses to hold up a building, right? To hold up a structure. And so I believe that if you're going to create content, it should hold up your building. It should hold up your structure. And so I'm saying that first of all to speak directly against some of this, some of the ideas that say you got to create content forever and ever. So there's some ideas out there, and they can work depending on the situation. But you should have an editorial calendar. You should be creating content every week, every month, every day, and you should be you should be pumping out content. And you probably have read that phrase somewhere: pumping out content. So
no doubt we have. Yes.
Yeah, I disagree with the approach, and here's why. Because as for the person listening right now, you are not in a content business. It's not what you do, right? You sell your service, you sell your offering, right? That's what you do. That's what you're incentivized by. That's how your company makes a living. So to then pump out content, so to speak, is a one-off task. It's not your expertise. It's not where you're trained, etc. So thinking about it that way, I think immediately splits your attention, and it becomes not as useful. So pillar content. If you were to create one piece of content, if it was one blog post, if it was one ebook, if it was one article series, if you think about it that way, but if it's just one thing that you created, what would you say? And it had to stand the length of time. So confronting clients, in my world, confronting clients with that question changes the way we talk about content now forever. Now it becomes less about Twitter posts and Facebook posts and LinkedIn articles. It becomes more about, no, really, let's cut the 80% mess out. Let's keep the 20% that is the sharpest and best, and only say that. So that's my point of view with this pillar content. Now,
okay, well, let's talk about that. So I think it's an interesting point of view. So, and certainly contrarian in many respects. So what you're saying is for your solopreneurs, your service providers, but it really be applicable to any small, mid-sized enterprise that's selling, a limited range of products and services.
Right.
Is that what you're advocating is, gosh, you shouldn't feel this burden of becoming a content machine. Instead, what you need to do is really create a great piece of content, this pillar content, if you will, that really is sort of evergreen,
right?
That stands the test of time, because you're using the content, I guess, in that situation you're looking at is the content becomes less about engaging new customers and more in a social media based marketing, as opposed to this is what you're using once you start that conversation with a client. I mean, that's what it sounds like, right?
Okay, good. So right, so you're asking application, right? So if you got this pillar content, like what is it used for? So here's a phrase that I use with my clients, and I really do believe in this. I believe that it is the content that sets context for the conversation to bring on new clients.
Oh, alliteration. Okay, we love alliteration on this show. So it's the content that brings context to the conversation.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I'm writing that down. So give us an example of, for one of your clients, what the pillar content is and what it looks like. And
sure.
And how they use it.
Sure. Okay, so let's start with what my client was trying to get done, right? Let's start with their goal. So I'll tell you a quick story about Cornerstone Bookkeeping and Accounting, and so Cornerstone Bookkeeping and Accounting does just that. They offer bookkeeping services. Now, here's the issue: when you say we offer bookkeeping services, in the client's mind, they immediately go to a how much per hour is it kind of conversation. And they're thinking $10 or $15. If you say $25 for bookkeeping services, the client freaks out. Whoa, that's way too much, right?
Well, but also they're thinking that one is, if they go to the hourly rate first, what their assumption is that everybody's the same as everybody else.
Oh, there you have it. Right. So that was my client's first situation is that they're saying, we offer bookkeeping services and the client is seeing them kind of as this third party outsourced vendor. We ship off some documents. We get some pretty documents back, and that's the entire arrangement. And when I confronted this client with the question of, again, if we could only say it one time, what do you want to say? What's most important? Then his brain shifted and he kind of went on this mini rant. He said, listen, Alzay, I don't want to be involved in these transactional relationships. I don't want to charge by the hour. What we do is certainly more robust than $15 an hour. What needs to happen here is that our clients need to make better financial decisions. And we want to be their partner so we can give them the documents, the information that allows them to make better financial decisions. And so when he got to that place, we had reached a different level of intention and a whole different packaging of his services. So really it's less about bookkeeping, the tactical nature of bookkeeping. Really what we're talking about here is better financial decisions. Oh, okay. Well, then let's repackage how we think about these transactional, if you will, bookkeeping. So then his next step here was to create pillar content that speaks that language. Not though we offer great bookkeeping and it's cheap and affordable and we have excellent software solutions. That's that kind of general vague. It doesn't resonate. His point of view is you make 3 or 4 decisions every year that decide financial decisions that decide the course of that year. And those decisions aren't made in a vacuum. They're made in context of your business. And if you don't have these 3 or 4 things in front of you, if those who are kind of in the accounting space, cash flow statements, balance sheets, profit and loss statements, if you don't have these documents in front of you, and if you don't trust those documents, you're bound to make poor decisions. Right. So we want to make sure that as the year goes on, that you always have these kinds of documents and that so you can make these kinds of healthy decisions so you can end up in this kind of financial place. Now, that short thing that I just kind of laid out, these documents to make these decisions to be in this place. That's what the content lays out. So here are the documents that you need. Example A, example B, example C. They're in the content. Here are the kind of decisions you're trying to make. You want to decide decision 1, decision 2, and decision 3. That's in the content because you'd prefer to be in this preferred place. Preference A, preference B, preference C. So this content that we're talking about now paints a picture. It's not just a sales piece or whatever other way you might think about it. It's designed to paint a picture. Hey, prospective client, we realize that you don't like where you are. It's uncomfortable and you prefer to be somewhere else. This is how we can move you from where you are to where you'd like to be. And in Cornerstone's situation, that manifested into a blog post. That turned into a blog post. And as dry as a blog post sounds, a blog post sounds lonely. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. As simple as straightforward as that may sound, the intention, what you're hearing from me is the intention of that piece of communication, of what it's designed to do. And the blog posts that come from Cornerstone Bookkeeping and Accounting are designed to do so much more than these standard blog posts. Okay. And that's how they work.
So they do more than one.
Yes, he has done more than one. Yes, okay. He has. Yeah. Yes, he has in his business.
Because I would advocate that only doing one is not a good idea. Because when people come to a website and they look at your blog and there's only one entry, typically raises a red flag.
Sure.
So, but I think the underlying message, I think, is really important for entrepreneurial ventures, small businesses, I said, the people in that category listening, because I think the reason most companies don't start a content marketing strategy is that they have this vision that they're making an investment in something that is going to, as you talked about, is basically everlasting, right? It's a machine. We're going to have to either outsource or hire people that can blog and can manage our social media and so on. And yeah, I love the point you're making, which is for a lot of companies, since most of the companies in the economy are, prototypical small businesses, that's overkill.
Yeah.
That you really need to focus on 1 to N number of core pieces that support your value proposition.
That's right. And if we're talking for those companies that are comfortable writing content on the web, my number is 4. That's I try to get my clients sort of scope of work. So if that one idea, if we can break it apart into 4 pieces of content, then what would they say? And I've got methods to help clients do that, so that becomes less overwhelming. But to your point about having just kind of one piece of content on the site, you can tell a complete story through 4, and that if you can get to 4, if you can make 4, you've done an amazing amount of heavy lifting.
For your business, absolutely. So one of the questions would be is that, okay, that's great, I understand that, but hey, these social tools, LinkedIn, Twitter, they are good places to make connections that can lead to conversations. Mm-hmm. So in your sort of core content, you've got these 4 pieces or however number it is. But I still recommend for small companies that they need to engage on Twitter. They need to engage in conversations with people on LinkedIn as a way of developing business. So, that is content still itself, because oftentimes you might be curating other content and sharing that as a way to open doors and initiate conversations.
And so here's what I would say very directly. If you have an engagement strategy, use it. If you have a curation strategy, use it. What I find is that clients tell me they have one, and then I ask them to show me, and it's a mess. Well, and I think on some level you're lying to yourself.
That's why they hire you.
Right. Well, there's the disconnect. So, for those companies that have a sense of self, if you will, on LinkedIn or a presence on Facebook or et cetera, and it's working for you. Oh my gosh, keep it, right? No need to fix what's not broken. But I think there are companies out there who are I use the word fussing their way through it, kind of scrounging around in the dark in their way through it. And if they're honest, they'll admit, what, we're just kind of flailing our way through this thing. We don't really have an approach that we trust.
And that's really key. I mean, one of the other key messages here, even though it's been more subtext than overt, is that, and we talk about this on other episodes on Accelerate, is you need to use experts to help you. If you're a small business, if you're a startup, if you're a solopreneur, it may be a little expensive, but you need to invest in the experts to help you get set up and your processes and your infrastructure set up the right way.
Absolutely.
And so your point about people fussing, you're wasting time and money if you're fussing. And so much better, even if you have to bite the bullet a little bit, you don't understand Twitter and what it can do for you, hire somebody that trusted source, go through your network of contacts. People have had success with somebody. They can come in for an hour a week or something and just help you understand what you should be doing with this. Same thing with LinkedIn. There's, a whole ecosystem of resources out there. Take advantage of one of them. It's nice to try to learn it yourself, but why not shortcut that process and use somebody like my guest today, Alzay, or somebody to help you get to that point sooner where you're being more productive with it.
And if I can just add to that very, very quickly, if I find clients that come to me are in one of 2 situations. One of 2 most important needs. The first need is client acquisition. Alzay, we're trying to grow and we need more clients in a more sustainable, predictable manner. So content at that point becomes a client acquisition approach. The other is about establishing a presence. Alzay, we want to establish our presence in LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Twitter or some other social media platform. And we need a content marketing approach to help us get a presence in that way. So then for those listening, which goal is most important to you? If it's client acquisition, then you've got to focus in and kind of do that more direct content client acquisition approach. If it's more of a presence, then yes, you can create more content over time and think about it in a more expansive way.
More of a branding.
Right, in more of a branding way. But I think for those listening, it's important to kind of confront you with the important question of choose. One of those two is the priority. Now, I'm sure you want both because we all want both, right? You want to be skinny and eat hamburgers. I know we want both. But if you're forced to choose, and working with me, you will be forced to choose. One of those two is most important, and we've got to hit that goal. So I just want to add to that when you think about experts to work with, et cetera, you've got to come to that expert with a goal, right? Hey, here's what we're trying to get done in our company, and can your process help us move that goal forward?
Excellent. So now we move to the last segment of the show, Alzay, where I've got some standard questions I ask all my guests. And the first one is a hypothetical scenario. And in this scenario, you, Alzay, have just been hired as a VP of sales at a company whose sales have sort of stalled out. Mm-hmm. And the CEO is anxious to get sales unstuck and back on track. And yeah, I know a sales turnaround doesn't happen in a day, but what two things could you do your first week on the job that could have the biggest impact?
So and as you were shaping the question up, it was kind of bubbling up inside of me. I want to know what we do. I don't want to know what we sell. I don't want to know what we think we do. I want to know what we do. So the people who are most excited about working with us, who are those people? What did we sell them? What offer did we offer to them? What did they say back to us? But I want to know what the most exciting things that we offer. What are those things? And so that's thing number one for me. I want to figure out what we do, right? That's A. The second thing I want to know is what is the most efficient, effective way we can do that thing more often? So if that's the first thing we introduce, great, it should be. But if the thing that we do is second, third, fourth down the menu, I need it to be first. I need to be hitting people over the head with the awesome thing that we do. So I'm interested in a more direct, specific sales strategy that would prioritize the thing that we do. So I want to know what it is, and I want a method to sell it more often. And just to kind of wrap all that up in a pretty little bow, I know that I can't figure that out all by myself. So we got to have some meetings. So I got to sit down with the sales directors if there are some. I got to sit down with the CEO if he's involved in the selling process, and we've got to come together as a team to get answers to these questions.
Okay, great answer. So next, this is sort of a rapid fire question. You can give me a one-word answer or elaborate if you wish. And the first one is, when you, Alzay, are out selling your services, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
Charisma.
Okay. Who's I can identify with that. So who's your sales role model?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, rapid fire. Oh, I'm failing that test.
That's
Andy.
Okay. We'll cut you some slack here.
There's a mix of people. There's a gentleman in the specific online marketing space. If you're really deep into it, you might know a guy named Frank Kern. I really appreciate Frank Kern. I really appreciate Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is more of a household name. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate Tony Robbins. And I really appreciate Seth Godin. And so to explain that really quickly and why that's a mix for me is Frank Kern does a wonderful job of keeping things simple. In a world where there are 4 million tools and 100,000 tools get added every day, he has a phenomenal way of saying, look, man, it's 3 things. Do 1, 2, 3, you'll be okay. Mm-hmm. And I think that's wisdom that is unique in this space. Tony Robbins has a way of owning a room, of owning the space that he's in, that is very unique. You know when you've met Tony Robbins, and it's hard to. And I've never met him in person. I've only seen him on video. But the way that he commands attention, I think, is remarkable. And Seth Godin has a way of applying marketing and marketing ideas in varying business concepts. He's very aware that marketing isn't just a marketing function, that it's a business function. And if we allow it to, it can up level how we do everything. So those three guys are people I try to emulate, borrow from, so that can be of value to those I serve.
Okay, great answer. So what's one book you recommend every one of your clients read?
If it's just one book, it's E-Myth.
Okay, Michael Gerber.
Yes, sir, Michael Gerber. He said systemize. And in one word, he said systemize. He said many other things, but that's one thing that he said. And if you're not doing that today, that will catch up to you. Either today, tomorrow, a year from now, it will catch up. And when it catches up, it's extremely painful. So it's one of those things where it's to your advantage to be proactive about putting systems around the things that are most important to you as the leader of the business.
All right, last question for you. What music's on your playlist these days?
Oh, what music's on? There is a personal friend of mine whose name is April Christina, and I'd love to share her name, so I'm doing that now. April Christina, she's a gospel artist, and she's just good. Some people are just good. She's just good. I've also enjoyed Sam Smith.
Okay.
And all of his, plethora of music that he now has available. So those are two.
All right, so we got a shout out in for April Christina. Very nice. So great. Well, Alzay, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining me. So tell folks how they can find out more about you.
CovetedConsultant.com is my website. I'm also, you can find me on LinkedIn. I am approachable on purpose. So Alzay at CovetedConsultant.com is my email. So you can send me an email saying, Alzay, I love what you said, or Alzay, I hate what you said. Either way is fine. The feedback makes me better. That's how you can find me.
Okay, so Alzay is spelled Alzay for people that are just listening. So again, thank you. And remember, friends, make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And one easy way to do that is to subscribe to this podcast, Accelerate. Just take a couple minutes. You make it part of your daily routine, whether you listen in your commute, in the gym, or as part of your morning sales meeting. That way you won't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Alzay Calhoun, who shared his expertise of how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.